Hi, I'm Kyla, and this is KP's Cookies, where I bake cookies with love in every bite. Today, we're making my double mocha caramel cookies. Welcome to my kitchen. Let's get started. With my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and all of my ingredients laid out and ready to go, we get ready for step one, which is making the caramel. Now, caramel in its purest form is simply sugar, heated. What happens is as the sugars heat, it actually loses water and the sugar binds together and forms a new substance called caramel. It's a very tricky process. It's not something I recommend for beginners, but if you do want to try it out, there's tons of great articles on the internet. Now, while we're making the caramel, I'm going to be performing several other steps just because I am going to have to kind of work quickly in order to make sure that the sugar itself doesn't burn and that the other ingredients are ready to go when the caramel is. So let's get started. I cook my sugar in a small saucepan over low heat, making sure not to stir it and making sure that it doesn't begin to brown too quickly. Butter itself, you can have it in different forms. One way you can put it into cookies, as I do in some of my earlier cookies, is by melting it, so you're actually creating like a browned butter. What I'm going to be doing is creaming the butter, which gives a little bit of lift to it, put some air into the butter itself, things that not even baking soda can do, in terms of giving it a sense of airiness, of rise. So we'll go ahead and start creaming the butter while my sugar starts to heat up. Now, when you're creaming butter, I definitely recommend leaving it out before you get started because otherwise it's going to be very, very tough to whip into a soft state. And once your butter is easy to mix, you're going to want to add in the sugars. Now, for this recipe, it's 1 part sugar to 1.5 parts brown sugar. So we got a little bit of granulated sugar, but a little bit heavier on the dark brown, which gives it a little bit richer flavor. So we'll go ahead and mix that in. Now when you're creaming the sugar and the butter together, you're once again whipping more air into the butter to give it a lighter, airier feel. You're going to want to let your caramel definitely cool before you pour it into this mixture, because otherwise all of that beautiful whipped butter that you just created, it's going to melt and you will lose any of the benefits of the lift that it creates. Now the thing with caramel is that you want to remove it from the heat the second it starts to brown. As soon as you can actually cool the pan, you're going to want to, because otherwise the sugar will continue to heat and heat and heat and eventually burn. So I've removed it from the heat and we're going to let it cool for a little bit before we actually add it into the butter mixture. While my caramel is cooling, I'm actually going to heat up 2 squares, which is 2 1-ounce squares of Baker's chocolate, semi-sweet. You can melt this in a double boiler. You can also melt it in the microwave if you'd like to. Whichever one is easier and easier to clean. What's great and what's not so great about this recipe is that you're working with 2 of the most temperamental home-cooked ingredients that I can possibly think of. One of them being the sugar, and the other, the chocolate. Okay, so now I'm going to add my eggs. 2 eggs in this one. Beat those in. And with the chocolate and the caramel, once again, that all needs to be completely cooled before you add in the eggs. Otherwise, you'll have scrambled egg cookies, which may not be what you had intended. It's nice and watery there. And of course, my triple vanilla. So whatever you normally add in the vanilla, I would usually triple it. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is add in my leavening, which for this one is just baking soda, and my espresso spice mixture. This is why it's mocha and not chocolate. So I've added in a little bit of extra kick to it. Oh my gosh, love the smell of espresso. And last but not least, flour. Once you have the mixture all together, add in my absolute favorite part, and the reason why these are actually double and not single mocha caramel cookies, semi-sweet chocolate chips. When in doubt, add more. Okay, for this one, I'm going to want to keep my hands nice and floured. So, make sure I don't make too much of a mess. Alright, and onto the cookie sheet we go. And now, off we go into our preheated oven. We'll just keep an eye on them. And there they go. These cookies are ready to go as soon as the tops are cracked and the bottoms are just starting to brown. So we're going to go ahead and pull these boys out of the oven. There are pretty much few flavor combinations that I like better than chocolate and espresso. And when you combine that with melted caramel, semi-sweet chocolate chips, you pretty much can't go wrong. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me here at KP's Cookies, where love is always the main ingredient. And remember, love is FDA approved and it's recommended as a part of your healthy diet. So let me know if you want a batch. We'll see you next time.